Ryan Ham here, introducing you to the Browning Model 1955. Itself just an updated version, or really almost identical to the FN Model 1910, designed around 1910 or before 1910 by John Browning. Remember, this predates, obviously, if you listen to the dates, this predates the Colt 1911. FN made these mostly for the European market initially, and what happened was Browning designed Colts in America were doing so well that they didn't really need another model. In Europe, though, there are a lot of specifications from police departments and armies as to what a gun should be, and a lot of those specifications required different guns, and FN wasn't making some of the Colt designed guns, so Browning, being who Browning was, designed just a completely different gun. And thank goodness he did, because this is an outstanding weapon. This is the model 1955, imported by Browning between 1955 and 1968. I think this one was made in 68, and import was stopped thanks to Lee Harvey Oswald and the American Congress. Importation was stopped because it was considered a cheap handgun, and they're trying to avoid getting cheap European handguns in America to compete with American handguns, although they used the assassination of John Kennedy and his brother and a bunch of other people as an excuse to limit our freedoms. Oh, I'll get off my soapbox and describe the gun. It is straight blowback operated. It's got a grip safety, although a little bit too strong a spring for my tastes. It's also got a thumb safety. Now, the grip safety doesn't affect the slide going back, but the thumb safety will affect the slide going back, and it essentially locks the slide. This other locking notch will lock the slide back and and facilitate disassembly. I'm going to clear the gun now. It's got a heel magazine release. You simply push back on it with your thumb and pull down on the front of the magazine. It of course doesn't drop free. To reinsert the mag, I prefer holding the gun as if you're firing it. I prefer to put the rear of the magazine in, kind of at an angle like this, pull back, and then push up. Although you can insert the front of the magazine and kind of wedge it in that way. At any rate, empty magazine, empty chamber, the gun is clear. Some features of this gun: a really nice trigger that extends out to the sides, make it more comfortable to pull. Here's the extractor. It's got a bushing on the muzzle that we'll use to disassemble the gun in a little bit. Very small sights and a sighting groove along the top. Very tiny notch there. Get that lined up with a very tiny front sight, and good luck. Mostly meant to be just pointed at short range, and pull the trigger as fast as you can. It's a self-defense weapon. It's not meant to go hunting after people. Nice shelf on the grip for your thumb. If you're left-handed, same thing. Europeans love their proof marks, and this is no exception. There are a lot of proof marks. If you get into that, you can see what all those mean. Serial number, Browning logo, of course made in Belgium, Browning Arms Company, St. Louis, Missouri, and Montreal. And there we go. Well, this is a plaid review, which means I'm just going to talk about the gun. I'm going to disassemble the gun and tell you a little bit about it. I've got a range comparison between this and the Remington Model 51 that I'll go into, and I'll just start with how to disassemble this. So you've already seen that it's clear. what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back and lock the slide back like that, and then when I do that I should be able to turn. You see how the barrel is turning? I'm turning it anti-clockwise, counterclockwise until it stops. There's no way to grip this easy. I've got a rag that I use that I can get more grip on, because I try and keep everything pretty well lubricated. So that barrel is turned around as far as it'll go anti-clockwise, and then what I want to do is let off of the slide release, and the barrel comes off. The slide assembly, sorry, comes off completely. If I turn this, it's going to shoot back and hit the front of that. What I'm going to do is get the striker assembly and its plunger out. So striker, plunger, and striker spring. When I turn this, it's going to snap back. There you go. Okay, now that it's snapped back, what I'm going to do is that knurling, I'm going to push on that, and then I believe I've got to rotate it clockwise. You see this? It's spring loaded by the recoil spring. It takes some getting used to. Oh, no. It's counterclockwise, anti-clockwise. Okay, and then that's going to... Oh, there you go. It's going to pop out. Not for the faint of heart. Not really for people who don't like a lot of drama, because there can be drama. Notice that there's, not sure the way this goes. I am going to leave it the way it is. It's the way I found it. How it bunches up kind of over here, but not so much over here. I'm going to leave that at the rear, and I think what that does is that kind of grips the barrel a little better. This alignment pin coincides with a hole that you can see down. Let's see if we can focus. A hole that you can see down in the breech face there, to kind of line everything up as it goes closed and keep it from turning, I guess. All right, striker fired. As you pull down on, but it's got a magazine safety. As you pull down, there we go. As you pull down on the firing, or the trigger, that little bar comes down, and that bar would engage the sear surface on the striker. So it would release and let that striker go forward under spring pressure. Pretty simple. That's pretty much all there is to it. I'm going to go ahead and take the magazine back out and reassemble it. I'll reassemble it in kind of a different order though. So get my striker together. The striker's also kind of flared out a little bit more. The striker spring is flared out a little more on the front. I'm going to use that to go in here, and it kind of turn it around a little bit. Kind of locks it in there. Similarly, this is kind of flared in. I'm not going to get it to focus, but there you go. Flared in, and that'll catch the plunger there. Okay, let's see if I can get this back together without too much fumbling. See, it's got a raceway in there, and goes down in there. All right. So all the way back there, I'm going to lock it all the way back. I'm going to put the barrel in. And you see, that's not going to work. Let's take the slide off, put the barrel in first. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this gun. I bought it as basically because I didn't own one. Alright, now let's try and put the slide back on. Okay, lock it Under the second locking lug. Let's twist the barrel to where it won't go any further. Let loose, lock it on the back one. And you can see, let me pull the spring out so you could see. Don't know if you can, but there are lugs, or there are openings here and here that correspond with the lobes here. You can see lobes here and here. So what I'm going to try and do is line those lobes up. Let's get the spring back on. Line those lobes up and get it turned clockwise, because remember it went anti-clockwise to go out. So let's righty-tighty back on. Okay. Okay. Well, I hope I got that on camera. I wasn't paying much attention to it. And we're done. No magazines, so the gun won't go off. I don't think the original had a magazine safety. This one does. Maybe it did. I don't know. I've never owned the original Model 10, Model 1910, or Model 1022, 10/22, which was a modification with a little larger grip and a little longer barrel. I've never owned any of those. This is the only one I've owned, so this is my experience. Hope it's not too limited. But that's how the gun works. You'll see my shooting impressions in another video. I'm going to dry fire it. You'll see my shooting impressions in another video. Wasn't too impressed. And the main reason, I think, was it's a blowback operated gun. This silly overpowered spring that a lawyer probably told him to put in there is a bit annoying. It very difficult for somebody with as big a hands as I have to grip the gun and to make sure that that spring and that lever was depressed so that I could actually fire it. It also being such a small gun, I can't, in order to get the gun to fire with the pad of my finger, which would be like a target style, or even with the crook of my finger going in there, felt and feels a little awkward. Don't like it much shooting it. Well-designed gun. It's solid. It's fairly heavy. It seemed to be decent accuracy-wise. Was not very reliable with the ammo that I fed it, which it's not really the gun's fault. It was designed around brass cases that fired at a pretty good velocity. European ammo being a little bit higher velocity than American ammo. So there it is, the Browning Model 1955, 1910, 1910-22. I think they had a Model 1971, which was kind of a bigger, longer target version that they had to use to import after the gun ban of 1968. And there you go. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, favorite, whatever you feel. Yeah, that's it. Goodbye.